Hello everyone, it's June from Artsy Lolico, and today I will show you a step-by-step tutorial on how to create a realistic, beautiful kiwi right here on Procreate using our very own custom-made brushes created by me. I crafted 16 brushes and 3 unique texture canvases that are going to be available on Etsy for you to purchase. This sketch is going to be available for free, including the color palettes. Both links are going to be down below. If you do find this tutorial helpful, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on that notification so you don't miss a thing. So let's not waste time, grab your iPad and open up your Procreate and let's get started. For this painting, I'll be using the ridged small canvas. So we're going to begin by painting the inside of the kiwi. So first, go to your Layers tab and select the Paint Here layer on top of the sketch. And we're going to choose a light green color to begin with. And don't worry too much of the color selection, the color palettes will be available as well. And then we're going to use the wet on dry brush. We're going to keep the size to 100% as well as the opacity. And here we go. And I like to start off with a circular motion, putting a lot more pressure in the inside to cover a lot more surface. But when I get closer to the edges of the lines, I like to take the pressure off to minimize any lines going over the sketch. Now we're going to paint the center of the kiwi, which has an off-white color in the center. So we're going to pick the whitest color that we can find and use the wet on dry brush and create a new layer. With 100% opacity and 100% size, we're just going to make an oval shape just like this. But we're going to go over it 3 times with 3 strokes to make it more brighter, but still translucent. And now we're going to create a new layer and select a mid-tone green mixture, and we're going to paint it on the edges of the kiwi of the greens. It's going to give a nice washed color look at the end, while adding highlights and texture as well. And with this, I've gone through it with 1 stroke, but you could also with multiple stroke. And one of the reasons why I start with light colors in the beginning is to build depth and dimension by layering darker tones for shadow and texture. And now we're going to create a new layer again. And we're going to select even a darker tone now. And we're going to do the inside of the center. And we're going to reduce the size to around 10% while still keeping the opacity at 100%. And just follow along on the outlines of the white texture in the center, giving a nice spike look from the center moving outwards. This additional layer will give a nice ripeness to the kiwi. Now we're going to create a new layer and paint the skin of the kiwi with a dark brown color. So pick a brownish skin tone color of the kiwi here, and keep the size to around 65% with 100% opacity. And we're going to start the edges from here all the way to the bottom. While you're on the top left corner, give a lot less pressure to be more precise, but when you go to the bottom, apply more pressure to get more surface area. With this, I went with 1 stroke because it does give a nice smoother look without having to have more layers knitting them together. You could also experiment trying different layers, adding additional strokes, and so on. And the sketch lines are basically just guidelines. Don't worry too much of following along exactly how the sketches are. And we're going to add another stroke to darken the bottom part of the kiwi. Now go to your Layers tab and select the white center to the top of the layers, leaving the 3 green layers of the kiwi together. And now you're going to pinch it using your 2 fingers and combine them together. Now select that layer, and then we're going to use the moving blender. And we're going to keep the size to around 25%. And begin blending by using in a wavy motion, connecting the 2 colors between each other. giving a nice washed look. And now with the center, we're going to move from the center outwards with the moving blender. Just like this. And the moving blender mixes the pigment of the colors very smooth, natural, just like watercolor style. And now you can remove the sketch if you wish to. Now I want to add a little bit more white into the kiwi. So we're going to select the layer that we already had for the white center of the kiwi. And keep the size to around 15% and a white color using the wet on dry brush. And from the center, we're going to taper off, putting a little bit less pressure when we get to the edge, but starting from the center. This will give a bit more juicier look of the kiwi by giving that nice white reflection from the surface of the sliced kiwi. Now create a new layer and pick the blackest color that you can find and find the fine line brush, keeping the opacity at 100% and the size around 30%. And now we're going to create the seeds in the center of the kiwi. And just like this, we're going to create about 2 to 3 lines, small circle oval shaped on the outside of the edges of the center of the white. And the seeds of the kiwi are very unique in its appearance, with the patterns pointing outwards from the center of the fruit, which brings the eyes of the viewer to the center. And you can also experiment less or more seeds from the center. And once I finish going around the kiwi, I go again and find the areas that need to be filled up with more seeds at this time. Now we're going to add some more water stain look here. So create a new layer and use the wet on dry brush. And it's important to keep the opacity to around 45% and size to around 80%. And pick the pigment of the color is around mid-tone, just like this, using your finger, holding down. And then you're going to go around the darker side, giving a little bit more texture and value to it. And just like this. And reducing the opacity on the wet on dry brush gives a nice transparent look in the center of the brush, but on the edges, it's still hard edges with darker edges, which provides a nice dried up look in the watercolor style. And you do not have to be so precise with this process at the end because the watercolor stain are very unpredictable. So I like to put a little bit more pressure at times, less at times, and wavy motions that are unpredictable. And I went over again, but putting a bit more pressure this time with a reduced opacity. And we're going to do the same thing with the skin dark tone color of the kiwi by using your finger to find a mid-tone color, keeping the opacity again to 50%, and just putting some light random textures just like this. And to give this extra juiciness of the textures of the kiwi, we're going to go to the gouache layer and pick a white color and used gouache brush, and we're going to zoom in. And we're going to keep the size to around 7%. And we're just going to put a little bit of light reflection on the seeds, only on the top, because I want the light coming from the left top corner. And kiwi seeds actually have an outer coating that gives a nice shine to it when there's light reflection from it. So the light's coming from the left, so we're going to be focusing only on the top side. And we're also going to make some lines at the top of the inside of the center of the kiwi to give a nice juicy effect. And now we're going to create some shadows at the bottom. So we're going to create a new layer and pick a bluish dark tone color and use the wet on dry brush. But with this, we're going to reduce the opacity to around 14 to 15% and keep the size to around 75%. And since the light is coming from the left side, the shadow is going to be on the right bottom. And just like this, we're going to create more shadows on the right side. And we're going to add another layer that is closest to the kiwi because it's a bit more darker. And use the moving blender now, and then blend in some of the dark tones and the light tones, as well as some parts of the shadows of the edges to give a nice blurred look, because the shadows are not the main focal point of the painting, but the kiwi. And now all we have to do is zoom out a little bit and get rid of the washi tape. So go to your washi tape layer and select the washi tape and pick an eraser with a big brush. I use the oil brush that comes with it, Procreate, and then just go around it just like this. And there you have it, simple, beautiful kiwi. And if you are enjoying these tutorials, please comment down below, like, and subscribe to this channel. And as always, have a wonderful day.